All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Detroit Lions in tonight's video. They just lost 48-42 at home to the Buffalo Bills. There's one thing that's very apparent to me is the Detroit Lions are decimated by injuries. We knew and we've known that they're decimated by injuries, but it was very apparent today. And then Carlton Davis goes down, Ali McNeil goes down, David Montgomery goes down, Khalil Dorsey gets carted off. I mean, it really was crazy. Ali McNeil even got carted off too. It's just crazy. The defense specifically feels like it's cursed as far as injuries go, but I'm not freaking out. I'm not tripping out. We'll deal with the injuries as they come into this upcoming week here, but Detroit in the first quarter just couldn't find any rhythm. And so for a team that hasn't lost, like the Detroit Lions are 12-2, right? You're 12-2. The Detroit Lions are 12-2. It's Sunday, December 15th. The last time the Detroit Lions franchise lost a football game was like 3 calendar months ago. And so I was not expecting, even though they've been rattling off wins, and even if you're playing like an Indianapolis Colts, a Tennessee Titans, a Jacksonville Jaguars, the Chicago Bears, Buffalo, it doesn't matter. To expect this team to go like 16-1, even though we all know they're capable of going 16-1, it's just a little bit out there. It really is. And I think outside of the first quarter, it was very clear that this could easily be a Super Bowl matchup. It'll probably be two teams making both of their respected conference championships. But I don't know, man. The injuries are just a huge thing, and it does need to be accounted for. But outside of injuries, Detroit still did a really good job. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. The defense just couldn't get stops when they needed to. The offense in the first quarter couldn't get points on the board. And those are the two big issues in tonight's football game. But before we get any further into tonight's video, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I hate making videos like this. I literally hate making losing recap videos. I hate doing this stuff, but I do just want to say, man, I don't think there's any reason to be concerned. I really don't. There were some unfortunate injuries, like all the players we just mentioned. Khalil Dorsey getting carted off with a gruesome injury. Ali McNeil's injury did not seem ideal in any way, shape, or form. Carlton Davis looks like he got concussed, kind of like a jaw issue, but it looks like he just got straight up concussion. David Montgomery gets a little bit banged up, but he's been a little bit banged up. To me, and first off, by the way, Detroit's now 12-2. Philadelphia won today, so they're also 12-2. Detroit does have that tiebreaker ahead of them. So the two things I said in my Lions video a couple of days ago was, first and foremost, try and stay as healthy as you humanly can. Unfortunately, that didn't really happen today. And number two is, please just try and hold on to the number 1 seed and have home field playoff advantage for the entire NFC North, or the NFC slate. And that still reigns true. This was a crazy offensive game. The Buffalo Bills had 559 yards of total offense. The Detroit Lions had 521 yards of total offense. Jared Goff threw for 494 yards. They only ran for 48 yards. Buffalo ran for 197. It was a huge issue, and a lot of this, to me, like we keep saying, and I hate to blame, I'm not even trying to blame injuries, but Detroit's a top rushing unit in the NFL. James Cook, 14 carries for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 7.5 yards per carry. He had a 42-yard touchdown as well. And then he had Josh Allen, who finished 23-34 passing for 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And then he also ran the ball 11 times for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I guarantee you, this game, the first quarter, Detroit's down 14-0. And they just could not get into a rhythm offensively or defensively. And it felt like a game like Baltimore last season. I don't know if you guys remember. I think the final score was like 35-6. Maybe it was 40, 41, 42-6, something like that. But when you go back and you watch that game, or if you just even remember watching that game last season, just a couple of bad breaks. And it wasn't like there's this huge talent gap. That's not what you thought when you watched the Ravens loss last season. And that's how I felt when I watched tonight's game or this evening's game. I just didn't feel like there's this huge barrier between Buffalo and Detroit. I feel like this could easily be a Super Bowl game. It felt like it was a playoff game. It felt like it was a future Super Bowl. And I think every person in the NFL world would love a Detroit Lions versus Buffalo Bills Super Bowl. It feels a little bit too perfect. It feels a little too perfect-esque. But neither here nor there. Jared Goff, 35 of 59, 494 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Um, it's just it sucks because Jared, a lot of that's garbage time. You know, that last touchdown to I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was Tim Patrick. Maybe it was Tim Patrick. Some of that was garbage time. You know, some of that's being down 21-14 at halftime. Some of that's being down 14-0 after the first quarter. But the game script pretty much was throw the football, even from the get-go, because it was 14-0 after the first quarter. David Montgomery, when he was on the field, ran 5 times for only 4 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs only had 8 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown. So just kind of illustrates the point of the game script flipped to we need to score. We're down a couple of possessions, so we're just going to throw the football. Amon-Ra St. Brown, unfortunately, I played in fantasy football tonight. 14 catches, 193 yards, and a touchdown. Sam Laporta, especially on that last possession, he played really well. 7 catches for 111 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs also had 5 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Jameson Williams, I think, was that final touchdown there. He had 3 catches for 37 yards and a touchdown. Tim Patrick had a touchdown and 4 catches for 30 yards. And then you also saw Dan Skipper catch his first ever touchdown, which was really cool. But even in a game like this, just saying that because Dan Skipper, the offensive lineman, scored a touchdown, kind of gets me back to the philosophy of, I don't think Ben Johnson's showing everything. I don't think the Detroit Lions are showing everything they got offensively. This game has no implications as far as you need to win it. Like, this is a must-win football game. Otherwise, you're KO'd. You're effed. You got Chicago and San Francisco in the next 2 games on the road. Chicago hasn't won a game in forever. San Francisco players are quitting on them. They didn't score a touchdown on Thursday night. The biggest game of the Detroit Lions season is going to be Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings in Week 18. But I need some health on the defensive side. Like, just for example, Carlton Davis got injured. Khalil Dorsey got carted off with an injury. So now you're relying, and what's his name? Emmanuel Mosley, still not back, right? Who's the obvious guy? Ennis Rakestraw, still not back. Like, their defense is literally depleted. It's completely depleted, specifically their secondary and their defensive line. There were no sacks. There were no forced fumbles. There were no interceptions. The Detroit Lions defense had a horrible game, but it's mainly just because they don't have anybody healthy. So I'm not freaking out. I'm curious where your guys' heads are. I got to go watch this Packers game. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button, hit that sub button for tonight's rapid reaction. But guys, give me your thoughts on this Detroit Lions loss down below. We'll see you in a couple of days. Peace.